Last year, we profiled the case of Chaz Richardson, a 27-year-old man who disappeared from his home in Surveyor, West Virginia in December of 2015. The circumstances surrounding his disappearance were both suspicious and confusing. Some evidence pointed to a possible drug overdose, while other evidence indicated either a kidnapping or perhaps even a murder. On October 13th of this year, at least one chapter of this tragic saga came to a conclusion when the Raleigh County Sheriff's Department announced that they had positively identified the remains of Chaz Alfred Richardson. From the outset, many feared that Chaz did not survive his disappearance. Some pointed to his love and dedication of his two small children as ample reason to believe that he would not have disappeared deliberately. Today, we know the sad ending. Chaz Richardson did indeed meet with death, most likely a short time after he disappeared. However, even as we film this update, many questions remain unanswered. To wit, just how did Chaz get from his home to the location where his remains were found? And was his death the result of a tragic accident or something more sinister? In December of 2015, 27-year-old Chaz Richardson was a resident of Surveyor, West Virginia, a small former mining community a few miles west of Beckley. Surveyor, a rural area which once touted moonshine whiskey as its stereotypical vice, is now better known for its rampant production and sale of methamphetamines and the rampant abuse of the painkiller oxycodone, often referred to locally as hillbilly heroin. Chaz Richardson was not immune to this cancerous trend. However, by 2015, Chaz was, by many accounts, attempting to get his life back in order. In spite of his battle with addiction, Chaz was reported to have been devoted to his two young children and their mother. At the time of his disappearance, Chaz lived in this home at 6611 Griffith Hollow Rd. The home is located on a gravel roadway that is not often used by non-area residents. Most of the surrounding countryside is heavily wooded and mountainous, with a scattering of homes and farms spread out over an unforgiving terrain. On December 3, 2015, something happened which ultimately led to Richardson's disappearance. While many of the details concerning the events of that day remain in dispute, Chaz's mother, Leisha Wellington, and the Raleigh County Sheriff's Department are in agreement that Chaz was at his home on Griffith Hollow Rd on December 3, 2015. They also agree that 4 other persons were present with Chaz at this time. The names of those known or suspected to have been with Chaz that day have never been made public. According to the Raleigh County Sheriff's Department, Chaz suffered a seizure, possibly the result of a drug overdose, and passed out. One of those present called 911. Chaz later regained consciousness, and when told that 911 had been called, he reportedly went into some kind of panic. Chaz was said to have ran from the scene and into the woods behind or near his home. Following up on this version of events, the woods around Chaz's home were thoroughly searched by members of a local fire department. According to Leisha Wellington, this search took place approximately 2 weeks after Chaz was last known to have been seen alive. When all was said and done, virtually all of Griffith Hollow had been searched by both foot and four-wheeled vehicles, and still no sign of Chaz was found. Early on, law enforcement theorized that Chaz may have run into the woods in a disoriented state and perhaps succumbed to the effects of hypothermia. Winter was setting in, and temperatures were already dropping far below freezing during the nighttime hours. For the next 4 years, Chaz's family and friends held on to the slim hope that he had either survived the elements and left on his own accord, or had been kidnapped and was still being held against his will. Sadly, by 2019, Alicia Wellington had all but resigned herself to the fact that Chaz was not coming back. These fears were heightened on July 20th, 2019. That day, the Raleigh County Sheriff's Department was called to an area near the opening to Griffith Hollow. A badly weathered set of human remains had been found in a densely wooded area off Genesis Drive. That evening, Wellington was advised of the discovery. Initially, hopes were high for a rapid identification. Among the remains found were at least 10 separate bones, a human skull, the tattered remnants of a pair of blue and gray boxer shorts, and part of a black Echo brand hoodie. However, the process of DNA extraction proved to be more difficult than originally anticipated. This, coupled with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, significantly delayed a positive identification of the remains. However, by October 7th of 2020, the news which Alicia Wellington had been dreading finally came to pass. That day, representatives of the Raleigh County Sheriff's Department came to her home and advised that the remains found in 2019 had been positively identified as Chaz Richardson. 3 days later, on Saturday, October 10th, 2020, the news was made public. Chaz Richardson had been found. However, the events leading to his disappearance and demise remained shrouded in mystery. In fact, the few answers which have been forthcoming have spawned a multiplicity of new questions, not the least of which is just how Chaz could have gotten from his home to the location where his remains were later found. According to Alicia Wellington, the remains later identified as Chaz Richardson were found in this general area along Genesis Drive. This area is located approximately 4,500 feet, or just over 0.8 of a mile northeast of the home where Chaz was reportedly last seen. This measurement, as the crow flies, traverses a steep, rugged hillside as well as a dense forest. Could Chaz, in a manic and disoriented state, have covered this distance and terrain on foot? Griffith Hollow is surrounded on virtually every side by the same kind of rugged and wooded terrain. Only the wedge-shaped opening to the east allows for an easy ingress and egress. The surrounding hills are occasionally traversed by trails for all-terrain vehicles as well as former logging or mine roads. However, none of these unimproved pathways are suitable for anything other than foot traffic or ATVs. Only Griffith Hollow Road is able to sustain travel by car or truck. If Chaz did not exit Griffith Hollow on foot, then there were only a few pathways open to him by vehicle. Chaz's former residence is located at the terminus of Griffith Hollow Road. From there, the roadway proceeds to the east and is intersected by very few alternate routes, most of which are even more primitive in nature. One such roadway, Charity Lane, branches off to the north, just shy of the opening of the hollow. This unimproved roadway proceeds north and crosses at least 2 private properties before it terminates into Genesis Drive. Aside from the direct line between Chaz's home and the location where his remains were found, this would have been the shortest route, however unappealing, by vehicle. A somewhat longer but easier route follows Griffith Hollow Road out of Griffith Hollow and then bears to the north, keeping parallel with the railroad tracks and Surveyor Creek. Griffith Hollow Road becomes Surveyor Heights Road and veers sharply to the west before making a 180-degree turn and terminating into Central Avenue, or County Route 305. Roughly halfway into this 180-degree turn, Genesis Drive branches off to the east and north, proceeding uphill for approximately 1/2 mile before coming to a dead end at a private residence. While the precise location has not been made public, Chaz Richardson's remains were found at some point off this short stretch of road. Curiously, Leisha Wellington has advised Mysterious WV that this general area had been searched in the days and weeks following Chaz's disappearance, a fact verified by at least one member of the local media. At the time, the weather was bitterly cold, which would have slowed the process of bodily decomposition. In short, the searchers at the time would have been looking for a fully clothed human body, and not a scattered set of skeletal remains. Was Chaz simply overlooked? Could his body have been partially buried by animals or the shifting and thawing of the freezing ground? If Chaz made his way out of Griffith Hollow on foot, then virtually any scenario is possible. However, if he exited the hollow by vehicle, as some later press reports indicated, then the range of possible scenarios becomes far more sinister. Just how did Chaz Richardson get from here, at his home in Griffith Hollow, to this area, a distance of just under a mile overland and just under 2 miles by roadway? Neither way is smooth going. The region is rural, remote, and mountainous. Only a handful of private residences dot the rugged landscape. Mysterious WV extends its condolences to the family and friends of Chaz Richardson, who, for nearly 5 years, held out hope and never wavered in their pursuit of answers. As of this airing, the remains of Chaz Richardson are still being held at the office of the State Medical Examiner in Charleston. No cause of death has been announced. Given the small amount of remains recovered, reportedly as few as 11 bones, there seems at least a fair chance that the ultimate determination will be that the cause and manner of death are undetermined. To that end, figuring out how Chaz got from his home to the location where his remains were found becomes all the more important. Chaz Richardson was reportedly last seen at or near his home at the terminus of Griffith Hollow Road in Surveyor, West Virginia, on the afternoon of Tuesday, December 3, 2015. The home he lived in at the time has since burned down and replaced by a new structure. That day, Richardson was wearing a black or dark blue hoodie, blue jeans, and red Jordan brand sneakers. Richardson's hair was cut short at the time, and his beard had been shaved into a goatee with sideburns. He was thought to have been carrying a wallet and cell phone at the time. Neither the wallet nor the cell phone have been found. Chaz may have been under the influence of an unknown drug at the time and could have been in a manic or panicked state. If true, then it is more than likely Richardson, were he on foot, would have been running as opposed to walking. Chaz Richardson's remains were found on July 20th, 2019 in a wooded area off Genesis Drive, approximately 0.8 of a mile northeast of his home as the crow flies, and just under 2 miles by vehicle. Just how Chaz got from his home to this location may be crucial in determining what led to his death. Anyone who may have seen Chaz Richardson on the afternoon or evening of December 3, 2015, or may have information concerning his disappearance and death, are encouraged to contact the Raleigh County, West Virginia Sheriff's Department at 304-255-9300.